Hey Canucks fans, welcome to Clay's Canucks commentary for Wednesday, September the 26th. I'm Clay Emo at Canuck Clay on Twitter, and at Clayton Emo on Instagram, and this is my Canucks take all in one take. Last night the Canucks lost 6-0 to Edmonton, dropping their preseason record to a not-so-good 1-5, and the Canucks have one more game this weekend before they start for real next Wednesday. So I expect a bunch of cuts either today or tomorrow as the Canucks move towards their final roster. You obviously want to be as close to your final roster as you can for the final preseason game. And then if they have to make one or two cuts after that to finally get their roster down to their final 23-man roster by Tuesday in advance of Wednesday's season opener. So we'll have a lot of time to talk about those cuts, projected lineups over the next week or so before the Canucks start for real a week from today. But for now, I want to talk about the one thing that concerns me. And yeah, you might say, well, Clay, we've been talking about preseason doesn't matter. Guys are barely trying. Guys don't want to get hurt. They're not even playing with guys that they're going to start the season with. I agree with all that. But I think you'd agree that we'd rather be 5-1 than 1-5. You just feel a little better about the team going in. Although we know that there's no correlation whatsoever between how well you do in the preseason to how well you start the regular season. But one thing that does concern me, along with the defense concerns me, and goaltending concerns me because no changes from last year. What concerns me most now is the lack of scoring, the lack of power, the lack of scoring punch up front. You know, we have Besser, who's just got his one assist in his 4 games. We have Pettersson, thankfully, he has 5 points in 4 games now, shut out yesterday. The whole team was shut out yesterday. So he's been maybe one of the lone bright spots in the preseason. Aside from their 4-goal explosion in the game I went to last week when they beat LA 4-3, you know, we've seen games of 6-0 loss, 4-1 loss a couple times. So not a lot of pucks going into the opposition net. So Besser has his 1 assist. Horvat and Barchi, aside from that one game, haven't really done a lot. You guys have guys like Sutter and Granlund, Goldobin, Leipzig. The list goes on. You basically name every player except for Pettersson, and you could say they haven't done a lot offensively. And it's fitting or ironic, whatever word, coincidental, whatever word you want to use, that we're talking about this on the Sedins' 38th birthday, because as we know, legendary players, probably the 2 best players to ever play for the Canucks, with their retirement, a lot of talk has been, how are you going to replace their goals? How are you going to replace their points? Daniel had 55 points last year. Henrik had 50 points. That's 105 points. And yes, you don't have to replace all 105 points. You're going to replace some naturally because now guys like Pettersson are on the first power play unit. So some of those points will come naturally, but not all. You know, so where are those points going to come from? We haven't seen a lot during the preseason, but again, it is preseason. So I do ask you, Canucks fans, as we look ahead at one more preseason game, and we're 1 week away from the season starting now, is who's got to step up? You know, the obvious answers are we want Besser to improve on his 59-point campaign. Some of you have been saying 40, 45 goals, which may be a stretch, but we'll see. Obviously, Pettersson, he had 0 points last year. He's never played before, so maybe he's in for 50 to 55 points, as we've talked about. The guys like Horvat got to continue at their 60-point pace or so over a full season. But who else to you needs to step up to fill this void? Is it a Barchi? Is it a Goldobin? Is it a Leipzig? Is it a Louis Eriksson and his big contract? Leave a comment below. Who do you think, aside from, you can talk about the obvious guys, obviously, but you can also add in some guys who you think are sleepers, surprises, or guys who quietly need to help fill that void. So that's my big question today. As I look at the Canucks' lack of scoring prowess, as I look at their lack of goals throughout the last few games, who's going to step up, and how are they going to step up? Maybe not only put who you think is going to step up, but how many points, how many goals, and how many assists, how many total points do you anticipate certain guys to get? You don't have to go through all 12 or 14 forwards, but maybe put a few down in the comments below. I'd love to read what you think and react to it and reply, of course, as always. Lastly, wanted to talk really quickly about how the fan base, the Vancouver fan base, is embracing this rebuild. We've seen, I think, through preseason, and we've seen through the struggles of guys like Ulevi and Dahlin and Gaudette's been okay, that you simply can't just throw guys in. Like, it's one thing to say play the kids and let them see what happens, but it's another thing to say, no, we'll play some kids, but we need to either shelter them, protect them, or at least have them be mentored and playing alongside veterans. You can consider Horvat and Barchi veterans now, even though they're only in their mid-20s. So yes, I think the Canucks fans are embracing the rebuild, and the way I see it most, you guys, is in my selling Canucks tickets. You know, when I came in as a season ticket holder in my first season, as I told you before, was the 2010-2011 season. What an amazing season to come into. So for that season and the next 2 seasons, right, because they went to 3 playoff runs, although none as deep as that first one. But the Canucks did make the playoffs in 11, 12, and 13. So the next season afterwards, at the start of the year, it was very easy for my friend Mike and I to sell our games, the games we're not going to. About 2/3 of the games we give away or we sell. We go to about 1/3 ourselves. So of course, after playoff season, it's easy to sell tickets. But in the last 3 years, obviously, with the Canucks not making the playoffs, it's been a little more difficult to sell. And last year was very tough to sell tickets until, of course, the Sedins announced that they were leaving. But to the Canucks' credit, they have not raised ticket prices. You could argue that they were too high in the first place, but despite the Canucks playing, or maybe it's because the Canucks playing poorly, the Canucks have not raised their ticket prices for 3 straight years now. So I guess the first thing, if you believe in a rebuild, if you believe that the Canucks are going to move their way up and that their stock will go up again, now's the time to buy tickets. Get in for a quarter season or half season or a full season if you desire and you can afford it. Now's the time, because I have a feeling if the Canucks do well or at least show some excitement, perhaps they move the needle a little bit and the season tickets, the prices go up a little next year or maybe the year after. I can't see them, holding them for 5 straight years, but who knows? But maybe now's the time to buy tickets. And I think that the reason why I think that Canucks fans are ready to embrace the rebuild and are excited about the potential of the team is because for Mike and me, we only have 8 games to sell. Like we had a list of 24. We've already sold 2/3 of those, so we've sold 16 of those 24 games. So we only have 8 more games to sell, and all of the games are, for October, November are done. Then I got one. I think we have one in December 1st against Dallas, and then a few games in 2019, which we can sell, over Christmas as Christmas gifts. But regardless, my point is this: that we're at this point last season or 2 seasons ago, we might have a dozen games to sell or 15 or 16 games to sell. But this year, for whatever reason, and I think the big reason is people are excited about the team, not necessarily this year, but going forward, or maybe they are excited for this year, and maybe they're ready for the rebuild, that it's been easier to sell, we have less games to sell. So to me, that's one practical indication that Canucks fans are excited about this season, and maybe more importantly, are excited about the future and are buying in to what management is preaching about this rebuild. So all to say, if you still want tickets, I have the Dallas Stars game on December 1st, and then a few games in the new year. Just send me an email. I'll put my address down below. Just send me an email, and I'll send you the ticket list, the game list with tickets and their prices. All right, Canucks fans, no games for a couple days, so we can just kind of celebrate the Sedins' birthday. We can talk about who's going to get cut, who will be cut. We'll find out probably today and or tomorrow. And leave a comment below. The big question today is actually 2 questions. Number 1, who's going to replace the 105 points that the Sedins left on the table or off the table, taking off the table? And number 2, are you okay? Are you excited? Do you have the same sense of me that there's been a resurgence in interest in the Canucks in this market, and despite that it might be a painful season, one more season to watch, that the Canucks are indeed trending the right way, especially when it comes to perception of the fans and their interest and engagement with the team? Leave a comment below. I'd love to read, react, and reply as always. Have a great day. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Give this video a like if you like what I'm doing on this channel. God bless, and go Canucks go.